So welcome. I am Reina Pudder. I'm a practitioner here in this community, and I have the honor and privilege of speaking today. So thank you all for being here. And today, our talk title fits into our theme. Our August theme is Spiritual Living Through Love, Compassion, and Caring. So that's kind of a big theme. It's a broad theme. And the talk title today is Discerning a Reflective World. And I chose that talk title because the world is constantly reflecting back to us, whether it be through world actions, whether it be through experiences or one-on-one conversations. And being able to discern that world is important. There are so many things, from a huge scale to the most minute experience, that is there to teach us something if we're just paying attention to the reflection. So discernment, why that word and what does that mean? We're going to get into that. It's a very powerful word, and it's a very near and dear word to my heart. And hopefully through the talk today, you will have that same experience. That is my goal. So part of that reflection in our world, I like to compare it to an optical illusion. It's an opportunity to see things through our own eyes. So if you could, Eric, put the first slide up. I want you to take a look at this. What do you see? Ask yourself, what do you see? Right? Some people see a drain. Some people see an eye. So when we look at things like this picture, we tend to have filters on that we don't realize that we have on. And those filters are developed through our experiences, through our values, through our upbringing, through our personal belief. And sometimes we forget that we're wearing these filters. And I think it's important for us to be aware of those filters when we're walking through our daily path, our daily life. So let's get to discernment. I had a lot of opportunities for me over the past few weeks, like my last talk. You know, it's so funny how Spirit works. My last talk, I was like, oh, I don't know. And all these experiences came through for me to be able to speak to. Well, again, this happened this time. So the one reoccurring message was discernment. And I found this quote. It doesn't have an author. I don't know who said it, but it spoke to my heart. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Discernment is the ability to see things for what they really are and not for what you want them to be. I thought that was powerful, because how many times in my life have I been in a situation and I saw it one way? Through my filters, through my experience in that moment. But maybe that wasn't the truth. Maybe that's just where I was in that particular moment. I know I can think of many times where this has come up for me, and I'm sure maybe as you're sitting here, some of you are thinking, oh, maybe I could have, a situation popped in your head and you might have thought, maybe I could have handled that a little bit different. The times in my life when I lacked discernment, the most I felt was when I felt disconnected from Source. When I was in my head space and not in my heart space, because I overthought things, and I analyzed things, and I put my own judgment on things. But then when I would reflect back maybe in the night, one of my daily practices is I'll go through my day, and as I'm going to bed at night, I like to reflect back on the day and tap into different situations that might have transpired through the day to see how maybe I could have handled the situation better, or tap into, was I really in my spiritual truth in that moment? And I would identify those times in my day where I was in my head space and not in my heart space. And that's very important to me. My goal every morning when I wake up is to be in that heart space, to constantly live from that heart space. So that was those types of reactions and situations that come to mind when I'm laying in bed. I'm like, oh, such a great learning opportunity. And you know what? Next time I'm going to do better. Next time I'm going to remember this moment and encourage myself to treat myself tenderly. Maybe I didn't handle a situation the way I wanted to, but acknowledge that it happened, learn from it, and change it the next time around. So a couple stories came up for me. I love Facebook because Facebook teaches me so much. And there was a story on Facebook, and it's about a 24-year-old man who is on a train with his dad, and he's seen the world for in this way, like, Dad, these trees, they're following us. He's super excited, and the dad smiles, and there's a couple sitting close to them, and they're kind of confused. Why is this young 24-year-old so excited about seeing these trees just rushing by? And a little while later, the young man said, Dad, the clouds, they're running with us. And every so often, he became more and more astounded about the nature that's happening outside his window. And the couple sitting close didn't understand, but they couldn't resist. And they said to the father, he's like, excuse me, but we think you should take your son to a good doctor. He doesn't seem right. Something seems to be wrong. And the dad replied, well, actually, we are coming from a good doctor. You see, my son's eyes were damaged at birth, and he is actually seeing for the first time today. I just got goosebumps. And that story, it spoke to my heart because it reminds us that we don't necessarily see things the way they are. That's that discernment, right? If that couple could have discerned the situation and cared to learn about what was going on before automatically stepping into that place of judgment, the situation would have been different. Everybody lives in a different space. We all have a different story. We all have a different journey. And we all have our own challenges. And sometimes we don't know what else someone else is going through. We don't know their background. We don't know what has just transpired in their lives. So it's up to us to discern, to get into that heart space, and to care enough to learn instead of making judgments or assumptions. It's important for us to really get to know and understand those that we are with and the situation. It's that part of intention and and living. I feel ya. Living from that oneness that we teach in this philosophy. We are all one. We all have that same divine spark within us. We are all fully supported in every possible way. So tap into that. There's a really good quote also that goes to that story. If we could go to the next one. The practice of discernment is part of a higher consciousness. Discernment is not just a step up from judgment. In life's curriculum, it is the opposite of judgment. Through judgments, a man reveals what he needs to confront and learn. Through discernment, one reveals what he has already mastered. Are you getting why I love that word discernment? It's an opportunity to grow and to expand. And as Reverend Julie talks about, that spiral that we're constantly evolving towards. It's taking what's happening today in your current situations and realizing the filtered glasses or the rose-colored glasses or however it speaks to your heart, noticing that you have them on and saying, you know what? I don't need them anymore. Because I am going to be me, and I am going to live my truth, and I am going to see my truth, because that is what I want to reflect back to me. Ernest Holmes, he says it this way. Can we please go to the next slide too? Never limit your view of life by any past experience. So to me, when I read that quote, it's that filter, right? I have to be aware of my past experiences so that I know if something's coming up for me in a situation that I wasn't expecting. It takes it from reaction to responding. There was another situation when I was talking to Reverend Julie about my talk this week. I had seen a video, and it was funny because she had seen the same video, and we were both like, oh yeah, that's great, that's perfect, it spoke to both of us. Where there was a boyfriend and a girlfriend that had broken up, and they met on a bridge. They just happened to be crossing paths. And it's that uncomfortable moment of, ooh, what do I do? Do I say hi? Do I not say hi? And in this video, they actually said hi. They were very, very cordial to each other. They gave each other hugs. They asked about each other's significant others. And then they went their separate way. Well, then they each called a friend. Well, what they didn't know is they called the same friend. And the girl was talking to her friend and said, you know what, I saw him, he looks amazing, and I miss him so much, and he hugged me, but I asked about his girlfriend, and he seemed so happy, and I know I'm not going to be with him, I know that I've lost my chance, so on and so forth. I'm paraphrasing. Then the ex-boyfriend calls the same friend, same experience. Oh my gosh, she looks better than she ever did. I didn't have the heart to tell her I wasn't with my other girlfriend, because she was with her boyfriend, and I just went home and cried, and I just can't believe I let her go. So this mutual friend sat them down and said, look, I'm so glad you both called me, because here's the situation, right? He was their filter. He was their filter cleanser, right? And he sat them down and said, look, what if you would have approached that situation differently? What if you would have been honest with one another in that moment? Had you not called me, we would not be sitting here today, and you would not know the truth, because you were too afraid to be vulnerable. You were too afraid to speak from your heart. You were too afraid that you might be rejected. Right? And how many times do we do that? How many times do we hide our light because we're afraid of what somebody else is going to think or say or do? So at the end of their little powwow together, he's like, do you know how many people stay together that aren't in love? And how many people are in love but aren't together because of this? So I ask you, is it worth it? Is it worth missing out on whatever it may be, the love of your life, obtaining your biggest dream, fulfilling your purpose? In every situation, we have the opportunity to stand in our truth, to be who we are, to be proud of who we are, and to express who we are. That's how you reach your goals. That's how you fulfill your purpose. That's how you shine your light and encourage others to do the same. And that's how you change the world. That's powerful. That is so powerful and profound to me. Oftentimes when we're interacting with other people, deep down, we feel the same. We're a feeling being if we listen. We all have that feeling capability. They call it your gut feeling, or that ticker tape, or what speaks to your heart, or that's that feeling that you tap into. And when you really listen and you tap into that highest frequency of love, there's no way that could ever be wrong. And when we come into these situations and we hide who we are, we tend to miscommunicate or maybe misread who we're interacting with or the situation. So again, that's where discernment comes in. When you are in that spiritual flow, that divine flow, and in your truth, you see the truth, and that's what gets reflected back to you. Another quote that I really, really enjoyed is this next one. Note to self: you can't control how other people receive your energy, Anything you do or say gets filtered through a lens of what they are going through in that moment. Just keep doing your thing with as much integrity and love as possible. So as important it is for us to be aware of our filters, we need to be aware of others' filters. And as much as our philosophy and our practice feeds our soul, it's not necessarily commonplace out in the world. And we run into those situations where there might be an individual who doesn't quite think the same way as we do. But being aware that they have a filter on is still standing in your truth and standing in your power and loving and accepting them where they are. An example of that for me is, it's been a challenge. It's funny how Spirit works, because it's taken me on a whole nother path. But love and filters are life-changing, really. And for me, when I decided to really stand in who I am and stand in what I believe and follow my path of becoming a practitioner and becoming a chaplain and working in hospice and following my heart for the love of my life, what I never thought would happen, happened. And people that I were closest to decided that that's not the journey that they wanted for me. So that was hard. That was hard to swallow. That was hard to step into. And it's still hard. It's been 8 years, and it's still hard. But I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing, because had I stayed small, had I stayed hidden, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be helping as many people as I help. I wouldn't be here sharing my heart with the people I love the most. And I am so grateful for that. And my family is who I'm talking about. I love them with all my heart. And the hardest lesson of discernment for me to learn was to love and accept them where they are and their filters, and know that it has no bearing on me. And that's what gives me strength, that's what gives me confidence, and that's why I know that love conquers all. Thank you. And it's in these moments of insecurity, and that's what I felt. I felt very insecure for a long time. That we hide ourselves, we hide who we are, we hide our authentic selves, and being vulnerable, you know me, everybody in this community knows me, I cry all the time, and I'm proud of it, I love it, I feel it, it's who I am. But growing up, I was told that that was weak, and I believed it, and I don't see it that way anymore. I think crying is healing, it's showing confidence, it's shining my light, it's who I am, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm proud of that. And I encourage you, I encourage all of you to do the same, because it is life-changing. So it's when, we decide not to shine who we are, that the fear takes over, and that's when we become disconnected. So, again, I want to ask you, imagine, is there a fear that is keeping you from fulfilling your purpose? Is there a fear that's keeping you from reaching your fullest potential and your biggest dream? Is hiding your vulnerability and expressing your truth still a good thing? Is it worth it? Ernest Holmes shares another quote. Eric, if we can go to the next one. Life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. Amen. Hallelujah. holy moly, pass the Tylenol, right? Like, it's true. It's true. How many times in your life have you noticed that what you give, whether it's service, it comes back to you tenfold. Tithing, it comes back to you tenfold. Not wanting a bill, it comes back to you tenfold, right? There's no good or bad. It's all energy. It's all what we put out there. So please, 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 I hope you take this into your heart to listen to that gut feeling, listen to your heart, listen to your higher self, source, universe, God, whatever you call it, whatever speaks to who you are. Listen to that, because that is your truth. That is your light. It's such an important point. I feel like I run out of words to really express how profound and powerful each and every one of you are. And I know that each and every one of you have touched my heart in so many ways, more than you could probably even possibly imagine. And I take that in as my filter too, and I know that. So there is one more quote that I want to share, and it's this one. And I encourage you to use this. Today I call upon my higher power to help me unleash a power of creativity and discernment in my life. Help me wisely create a more beautiful life, one guided, one decision at a time. I have another story I want to share with you. Mick and I have a friend who used to come to the Center for Spiritual Living, and then she moved to Nebraska, and they don't have one there. And we haven't spoken to her in a few years, but she called the other night, and it was so good to talk to her. And we were just kind of catching up on all the good things, and she was telling me the story about how she had just gotten married about a year ago. And she had been so resistant to getting married, to really following her heart, because she was afraid. Let me go back a little bit. So the man that she married was her previous husband. So they remarried. And so she had been fearful to be vulnerable, to let her heart truly feel those true feelings that she had. And she told me, she's like, Reina, I would keep him at arm's length because I didn't know if I could go there. I didn't know if I could do it. And then I got out of my own way. And they ended up getting married. And she said, I have never been happier. He is the best decision I have ever made. And I am so glad I stopped hiding. I am so glad I stopped being afraid, because I wouldn't be as happy as I am today, and I wouldn't be where I am today. So again, there's time, and I could tell you story after story after story. Are there times in your life where you're glad you made a decision? How does it feel when you stand in your truth? Do you feel that confidence? Do you feel that courage? Do you feel that love? So discerning a world that reflects back to us. I talked about big things happening in the world too. And what does that say to us? These events that are happening across the world. Right? How can we change it one person at a time? And it's still staying in that place of love, staying in that place of truth, and knowing and accepting and loving those on their journey. I'm a true believer that every situation is an opportunity for us to grow and pushes the greater consciousness to a higher awareness. And when things happen in the world, I tap into that, and that's what allows my heart to feel peace, that that good is coming out of it, even though it might have been a bad choice in that particular moment for some bad event to happen. But again, those are filters, right? Of good and bad. So just be aware, folks. Be aware of where you stand, where your truth is, what your heart needs. Because it is absolutely on point. It is absolutely on purpose. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak my heart and my words today. I think it's a very important topic, and I just encourage you so much to stand in your beauty and let your God show, as the teens would say. Namaste.